We are in Algebra 2, Lesson 1-8. We are finding inverse functions. Yesterday was evaluating, today we're finding them. So here we are in the unit guide, 1-8, finding inverse functions. We just did a quiz a while back. We are on our current inverse functions category until we have our quiz and then the test. So be ready, next week we are going to be having a test. And of course we know what we're doing tomorrow. Tomorrow is verifying, and then Friday we're determining if a function is invertible. Let's go ahead and begin with the notes. This is a review question, the method. All right, to find the inverse function for an equation, you do what? I said you're going to say this tomorrow. Fiona has an idea. 2 hands. Needs to be at least 4 hands. This is a review question. To find the inverse, you do this one thing. Appreciate students looking at the notes. There's 3 hands and there's 4 hands. Let's give it a stego.
You reverse the function.
You reverse the function. You are correct. And I'm not going to write it down because there's a way to actually find it. So reversing is more of the definition of what an inverse function does. But in order to find it, you do this one thing. Eva?
Switching the inputs with the outputs.
There it is. Switch the inputs with the outputs. So of course we need to do the XP. So Stego, you did give the correct definition. I could have asked that question better, so you gave the answer I was looking for, but that's okay. No, you got the correct answer. That's 50 XP. And Eva, you also got another 50 XP. Perfect. And what's another way to say inputs and outputs, Fiona?
X and Y.
X and Y. So we can label that above an X for the inputs, Y for the outputs, if you want to do that. Thank you. So I want to do a little bit of review. All of today is just solving equations, but now we're going backwards, as Stego put it. So this is a modified question from the homework set tonight. When x is greater than or equal to 0, solve for x squared is equal to 5. So if I just had this, pretend we're just looking at x squared equal to 5, how would I solve that? What would I do to both sides? Quiet raised hand if you have an idea. How do I solve x squared is equal to 5? What do you do to both sides? Should be a review from Algebra 1. I see 1 person knows, 2 people know, 3 people know. Just those 3? Okay, Andrea, go for it. You square root both sides. Yeah, very nice. Square root both sides. Write it down on your notes. You square root both sides. So the square and the square root should cancel each other out. So there's the square root cancels out with the square. And I'm just left with an x on the inside. And that's equal to what? This is a challenge question. There is a trick here. Make sure you know the trick. Fiona has the answer. Does anyone else have an answer? It seems like it's straightforward. So what's the trick? Yeah, go for it, Fiona. Square root of 5, and that is half correct. I'll give you half points. Half points. Anyone want to take a guess as to what the other half of it is? Stego? Good guess, but not quite. So I'm going to give XP before I forget about it. So I'm going to do an attempt, and I'm going to do another attempt. Andrea, go for it. It is plus or minus. Anyone know why it's plus or minus? The deep math question. Why do you have to do plus or minus? Go for it, Fiona.
Because, like, no matter what the square root is. Wait. Is it like, I know that, like, if you square something, it's going to be positive.
Right. So if you're going forward, it's going to be positive. And here's the reason. I'm just going to do this on the board so you can see what's going on. So if I have -2 and I square this whole -2, that means what times what am I doing? What are the 2 things that are being multiplied now? -2 times -2. A negative times a negative is
Positive.
So this is a positive 4. But if I want to go backwards, if I want to take the square root of 4, I don't know if I started with a positive 2 times a positive 2 or a -2 times a -2. So to account for the fact that we're going backwards, I always have plus or minus. All right. And I apologize to Chris, James, and Steph that are watching the video because that was not in here. But we're going on to the note. We only do this plus or minus when It's an even power. And this is pretty key. We're going to be doing problems in the examples and notes really soon where you will actually experience this. When it's an even power, this 2 in our example was even. If I did something to the power of 4, x to the power of 4, that's also even, then you have to do plus or minus. But if I had x to the power of 3, I don't need to do that. And think about this problem, -2 times -2. The reason that we don't need to do the plus or minus is because when I multiply 3 negatives together, you'll still get, yeah, exactly, a negative. So you don't need to account for going backwards, that you get rid of the positive. Whenever you have an even number, you'll have an even number of things multiplied by each other that are negative, which turns into a positive. All right, let's look at example 1. So this is a problem almost directly from Khan Academy. I slightly modified the problem. So I need to find, hold on, I'm moving too fast. We solved x squared equal to 5, but it told us this part right here. X is greater than or equal to 0, which means one of these answers, because we gave 2 answers with this, one of these 2 answers is not correct. Fiona, go for it. The negative is not correct. It's just square root of 5. Yeah. To eliminate the fact that you could have 2 answers, all the problem set will ask for just one answer by including x needs to be bigger than 0. It needs to be a positive number, a non-negative number to be more exact. All right, so it's asked the same thing. I'm only going to have one answer because it's saying x is greater than or equal to 0. Solve this equation backwards. So I'm going backwards now, which means I'm switching the inputs with the outputs. This used to be, instead of an f and x, go ahead and cross it out. This is the same thing as a y. This used to be y equals 3x squared plus 7. But now I'm going to find the inverse. I'm switching the input and output. I'm switching, as Fiona told me earlier, the x's and the y's. So now this is, and write this down with me, x instead of a y. The y changed into an x is equal to 3y squared plus 7. Now I'm trying to get it back into y form. I'm trying to isolate y. What am I going to do? What's the first step? Quiet raised hand. I'm trying to isolate y. Only Fiona knows. I'm going to wait for more hands. Analyze this problem. What are you doing? I see 2 hands. Gio, go for it.
Subtract 7 from both sides.
Yep, subtract 7 from both sides, and you get x minus 7 is equal to 3y squared. Good first step, Gio. I'm going to give you your XP. I don't know why it does that. And there's another step, Stego.
I don't know if this is right, but you get the square root of 3y squared.
So you could do that. So you're saying take the square root of that side, take the square root of that side. So that is a valid mathematical operation, but the problem is you're going to be stuck with a square root of 3 on the left-hand side, and it's going to be a little bit hard to undo the square root of 3. So you're thinking in the right direction. Try the other one first. What's the only other thing that you can do to isolate for y? To get rid of that 3, that pesky square root of 3 if we're taking the square root. Yeah, divide by 3. So I'm left with now, and I'm going to just leave this as x minus 7. All of that quantity divided by 3 instead of dividing each term by 3 is equal to y squared. So I'm going to give you, Stego, your XP. And then finally, we all know that to solve this problem, we're going to take the square root. So y is going to be equal to, and then if someone can verbally tell me what to write down, you can get your XP. Fiona's been participating a lot. We'll give it to someone else if they want it. Nope. Okay, Fiona, go for it.
Due to the positive or negative square root of x minus 7 all over square. I mean,
Divided by 3. Okay, nice. And then to add this part in, Fiona, what are you going to do? Yeah. What are you going to change about this problem? Something to do with this symbol right here?
Oh, it's just positive.
Just positive. So we're going to take that positive version of our answer because we have to choose something that is positive, something that's greater than or equal to 0. Well said.
So that's our answer, just y equals positive square root of
X plus x minus 7 over 3. Yep, that's all you do. Any other questions before we move on to our next type of problem that we'll encounter? Shakes our heads. All right. Cubic and polynomial. All right, so solve for x to the power of 3 is equal to 5. This is a little bit harder of a review question because we're moving farther into the realms of Algebra 1. X cubed equal to 5. How do I solve? Quiet raised hand. Just Fiona? Fiona and Gio? Anyone else? Go for it, Gio.
You do the square root.
You're close. Square root. So you're thinking to do square root to both sides?
Yeah.
You're close, but not quite there. You still get your XP. Fiona? The cube root, yeah. So the cube root and the cube cancel each other out. And then I'm going to go back to my previous example. I did this on purpose. When I do the square root, what I'm really doing is I'm doing the square root with an index of 2. The little number that goes in front of here is called the index. An index of 2. It's always assumed that that is 2 if it's blank. But if I put a number there, if the index is 3, now it will cancel out with a cube. So this cube root cancels out with a cube, and I'm just left with x. And make sure that you do the cube root to both sides. So the cube root on this side. All right. Do I need to do plus or minus? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Show me thumbs. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Yes, I need to do plus or minus. No, I don't need to do plus or minus. All right. So I see some people do thumbs up, some people doing thumbs down. Go ahead and reread our note up here. And then we're going to vote again. All right. Everyone is voting correctly now. So we all get the... I need to figure out how to get this set up. So James is gone. Steph is gone. And Chris is gone. There we go. So now everyone can get your 10 XP for doing your thumbs. So yeah, we just have x by itself now is equal to not plus or minus because it's an odd index. It's an odd power. Cube root of 5. Final answer, done. Apply that same logic. So if this index was a 3 and this power was a 3, they should cancel each other out. Therefore, how do I get rid of this x to the power of 100? How do I get rid of this pesky power of 100? What am I going to do to both sides? Quiet raised hand. I only see 2 hands. Some people are still writing, so I'm going to pause so they can think about this. I see 3 hands. I'm still pausing until I see the pencils stop writing and then people think. Andrea, go for it. Say it one more time.
The index would be 100.
So the 100th root. All right, 100th root on both sides, 100th root on both sides. Yeah, there it is. Boom. And once I do that, I'll get x. Oh, sorry. Yes, please. The beeping sound stopped. All right, now for another round of XP, what do I put this equal to? And you need to be thinking, do I do plus or minus or do I not do plus or minus? Is it the positive or the positive and the negative? Which one is it? I want to see every single person raise their hand. And there they are. Okay, Eva.
X is equal to plus or minus 100 root of 5.
Thumbs up, thumbs down. Do you agree or disagree with Eva? And that is correct, yeah. It's 100th root of 5 with the plus or minus because we had an even power. Well said. So we all get thumbs and Eva gets her 50 XP. All right, so we have 2 more examples, example 2 and 3, based off of that information. What I want you to do is do these by yourself. Remember that the first step is going to be to cross out this g of x and replace that with y, and then follow similar to the last steps with our new knowledge. So I want to see example 2 and example 3 done by yourself, and then you're checking with the neighbor to see if they got the same answer. All right, so we're back. Example 2, I need a volunteer to walk me through it for 100 XP. It's a long process. 100 XP is worth it though. Walk me through example 2. Andrea, go for it.
Okay, so first, y equals. First, you rewrite the equation, so y equals, and then 2x cubed.
So we have the y, yep.
Yeah. And then you add 14 to cancel negative 14.
Okay, so did you switch the x and the y? Okay, so I think you can continue on.
Yeah.
So x is equal to negative 2. Read it off.
Y. Times 14.
Okay.
And you add 14.
Okay, so I have x plus 14 is equal to negative 2y cubed. Then,
And you divide by negative 2 on both sides.
okay, so I have x plus 14 divided by negative 2 on the left, and on the right I have y cubed.
And then you do cube root on both sides.
Cool, and I'm going to do that in a different color just to distinguish the steps. Oop, lag. Cube root on that side, cube root on that side. Do you have to do plus or minus?
No.
No.
It's just negative.
All right, so y is equal to the cube root of this. Did you bring the negative out front, or did you leave it in the denominator? Okay, perfect. I'll do the same. Like that. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Is that what you all got? All right, everyone give me the thumbs up. Thank you, Andrea. All right, I need someone to walk me through example number 2. Who wants to do it? Let's go give it to Eva. Let me do walk, th. Typing with, oh, I spelled wrong. Typing with a pen in one hand is a little bit difficult. All right, so tell me what you did.
I crossed out each of x and made it y.
Okay.
And I switched the y and axis. X equals 5y. How is it?
To the power of.
To the power of 4 minus 17.
Well said. Okay.
Then I added 17 to both sides.
Added 17 to both sides. Okay.
Then I divided 5.
Okay.
5 on both sides.
X plus 17 over 5 is equal to y to the power of 4. Then fourth root.
Fourth root on both sides.
Fourth root on both sides. Or a radical on both sides with an index of 4. It's a little bit harder to say, but then you can change it for any number. And what was your final answer?
Y equals plus or minus fourth root x plus 17 over 5.
What do we think, class? Thumbs up, thumbs down? All right. Yeah, I also agree. All right, let's flip over to the back. All right, now we have radicals. So we're going kind of forwards from the backwards direction instead of going backwards from the forwards direction. So I have the cube root of x. To solve this, let's see if anyone remembers this. How do I solve cube roots? I want to get rid of that cube root. Fiona has an idea. Does anyone else have an idea? Andrea has an idea? We'll go Fiona.
Cube it.
Cube it, yeah. Cube this, cube both sides, keep them equal, and that gets rid of the cube root. So the cube root and the cube cancel each other out, and you are left with this x is equal to 5 to the power of 3. What is 5 to the power of 3? Oh, it's not up there.
No,
It's not 15. 625. That
We just
is not quite right.
125.
It is 125.
Oh yeah.
Because 5 squared is 25. And then I need to multiply by 5 again. So if I have 5 quarters, I have $1.25. There it is. All right. And using that same logic to have the indices match the power, what do I do to both sides on this one to make sure I give Fiona her XP? What do I do to this one? What do I do to both sides? Quiet raised hand. Andrea, go for it.
do it to the power of 100.
The power of 100. There it is. And then I'll be left with x is equal to 5 to the power of 100. We're not going to calculate that. Most calculators, I don't even know, will be able to handle that. But yeah, those cancel each other out. Perfect, perfect. Okay, so we have example 4. We have this fifth root of 3x minus 7. We need to undo everything when we're taking the inverse. So again, I think example 4 you should be able to do on your own. Once we hit rationals, I think I'm going to have to walk through rationals and example 5 with you. But what I want you to do right now is walk through example 4 on your own and check with the neighbor once you're ready. All right, we're back. I need someone to get 100 XP so they can walk through the problem. We'll give it to Eva.
Okay, so I don't know if this is right.
Everyone always starts that way, but
But I did
I'm sure
the-
you're good.
Cross out the I of x and make that a
Okay.
So it's x is equal to fifth root 3y minus 7.
Flag 3y minus 7. Okay, next.
And I did both sides to the power of 5.
Okay, so now I have x to the power of 5 is equal to 3y minus 7. I'm going to pause here because I know that some people needed to see what's going on here. Pausing for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can continue.
Then I added 7 to both sides.
All right, so you have x to the power of 5 plus 7 is equal to 3y.
Then I divided 3 to both sides and got y is equal to x to the power of 5 plus 7 over 3.
And we forgot to box our answers in the previous ones, but yes, there it is. Questions on example 4. Up to now, everything has been reviewed. This is finally where we hit our new topic, our new material. Well, I guess technically it hasn't been reviewed since you haven't really done inverse functions, but in order to solve for the inverse functions, that's reviewed. This thing is difficult. You will see these if you take AP Calculus. There are 3 people in here that are going to be taking AP Calculus, and some people that are watching the video that will also be taking this. This happens a few times. Arrow, I don't even know if you know how to do this yet. You might have already learned this. But definitely when you do derivatives with x and y, I forget what they're called. It's not coming to me. I'm mind blanking on it, but you need to know how to solve these. Okay, so very similar. J of x, that turns into a y, and I'm going to switch x's and y's. So instead of a y over here, I'm going to have an x. X is equal to, everywhere where I see an x, I'm going to change that into a y. 3y minus 7, all of this divided by y plus 3. Oh no, Mr. Sindel, there's multiple y's, and we can only solve for one of them. Which one do we isolate and how? That's the problem. This is how you're going to do it. We're going to assume that y plus 3 is not 0, because then that would be a math swear word. You're dividing by 0. So assuming that you're not dividing by 0, then you can multiply both sides by y plus 3. And by the way, this is basically cross-multiplying. I'm cross-multiplying this y plus 3 and the x and the 1 and the 3y minus 7. Another way of saying that is I'm just multiplying both sides by y plus 3. When I do that, and I'm going to do this little symbol in my notes, I'm multiplying these two together, and I'm going to put parentheses around this. When I do that, I'm going to get x distributed into y plus 3 is equal to 3y minus 7. Okay, Mr. Sindel, that's great, but I still have 2 y's. How can I solve the problem? And here is the key. Write this on the sidebar of your notes. Get all y's on one side. With this one key thing that I'm writing on the side, you should be able to solve this. I'm going to distribute that x. I'm going to get all of those y's on the same side, and then I'm going to do a little bit more math magic, and then I will have my answer. So first, distribute. Someone just call out what's going to happen here. Distribute, and I'm going to get what? Go for it, Fiona.
Y or xy plus x, 3x.
Plus 3x, yep. 3x is equal to 3y minus 7, so that was the distribution. But I need to get all of my y's on one side. There's a y, there's a y. Those two should be on the same side. Everything else, just like my room when I was in 2nd grade, I would throw to my sister's side. We're going to throw all that other stuff to the other side. So I'm going to get this 3y onto the left side by subtracting 3y from both sides. So I'm going to rewrite this left-hand side. It is now xy. There was the original xy. You're writing this down with me. That's why I'm pausing. Dramatic effect. And letting you catch up. I'm also going to subtract this 3y. There it is, onto the left-hand side. Everything else I'm throwing onto my sister's side of the room. This 3x is now going to go to the other side. I can't just put it there. I'm going to subtract 3x from both sides. So this is now equal to, the negative 7 was already over there, and I'm going to subtract that 3x. So far, so good. That was probably the hardest step because there's a lot of mental math here. But everyone's looking pretty confident from my perspective. There's my y's. I need to factor out a y. If y is being factored out, what goes on the inside? That is a question for XP, and I forgot to give Fiona her XP from last time, so let me do that before I forget. I think it was Eva too that I forgot to. I'm backlogged on XP. What is going to be left in here when I factor out a y? Each of these terms divide by y. What am I left with? something minus something, hopefully. Geo. X minus 3, there it is. X minus 3, I'm going to rewrite the right-hand side as well. Negative 7 minus 3x. Oh, thank you, Mr. Sindel. You saved us. We're back to just one y, one thing that we're trying to solve for. Whew, that was challenging. Now we have this garbage x minus 3. Let's just throw that to the other side as well. Divide both sides by x minus 3. We are left with y is equal to my original stuff on the right-hand side, negative 7 minus 3x. But all of that is being divided by this x minus 3. This x minus 3 is now my denominator. That's it. That's the process. There's my inverse function. Lots and lots of steps, but now you have an example. Ask me questions now, otherwise I'm turning you over to example 5 and we're finishing up the notes. All right, try example 5 on your own. All right, we're back. Who wants to get 100 XP to walk me through this process? Andrea, go for it.
So you switch out the x and y. So then it's x equals 5y plus 1 over y minus 2.
So far, so good.
And then you divide both sides by, oh wait, no, you multiply both sides by y minus 2.
Yep, that y minus 2 is going to come up here, and then you're going to be left with this guy. Y minus 2 is being multiplied by the x is equal to the 5y plus 1. Continue on.
You distribute the x.
And you get,
X, y minus 5y equals 1 plus 2x.
oh, you're skipping way ahead. Yeah, that's cool. Minus 5y equals, say it again.
1 plus 2x.
1 plus 2x. So a step was skipped here. I just want to make sure that everyone could follow that. This x was multiplied into the negative 2 to get negative 2x. And to undo that, we had to add 2x to both sides. And we had the original 1. We had to subtract that 5y. That's where that negative 5y came from. All right, continue on.
And then you factor out the y.
Yeah.
And then it's y times x minus 5 equals 1 plus 2x.
And a better way of saying, so you said that correct, an even better way of saying y times the quantity of, and then I know that it's giant parentheses. And continue on.
And then you divide both sides by x minus 5.
All right, 1 plus 2x all over x minus 5. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Did you get that on your own? So there is another answer. If I multiply the top and bottom by negative 1 over negative 1, this is a second answer. If I do that, my second answer could have been negative 1 minus 2x all over negative x plus 5, or something similar to that. You can have different answers. Is that what you got, Fiona?
Wait, I got negative 1 plus 2x.
Negative 1 plus 2x. So you got the negative 1.
Yeah, I got the negative 1, but nothing.
I'll come talk to you individually. Aside from that, let's go ahead and write our summaries.